a San Francisco courtroom at the center of a legal fight over President Trump's deployment of military troops into Los Angeles and a decision that could come at any moment. So we're standing by with that. Also, California Senator restrained and removed. We're going to have more on that as well. Plus, a California senator restrained and removed.
I have questions for the secretary.
Then taken to the ground and cuffed.
If you don't have my hands, go ahead, put him behind my back.
Fallout from the scuffle at a Homeland Security press conference in L.A. And new calls to overhaul police chase policies after a deadly CHP pursuit in Oakland.
Why should I feel safe walking down any one of these streets?
How the city could actually be in line to loosen restrictions on Oakland police officers. And later, trains skipping right through a busy area of Burlingame 5 days a week because of a construction project stalled for 2 decades.
We've got 20 years worth of promises from CalTrain.
Why local leaders say it's not a simple fix.
This is CBS News Bay Area with Juliette Goodrich.
Good evening. We begin tonight with some breaking news out of the Middle East. CBS News sources are reporting that Israel's military conducted a strike on Iran's capital. It happened early Friday morning, local time. Explosions were booming across Tehran. The sources did not provide details about the extent of the operation, including the targets. Now, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the United States was not part of the operation, and sources tell CBS News the U.S. was not involved in any intelligence sharing related to it. It comes as tensions are rising over Iran's rapidly advancing nuclear program. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel launched a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. We will continue to track this conflict as it unfolds. We will have the latest on the air and on our website, kpix.com. More news back here in the Bay Area. The death toll of a high school teacher in Oakland is placing new scrutiny on the city's police chase policies. We have newly released video of the pursuit. It was actually the CHP and not Oakland police that was chasing a teenage driver who then crashed, killing the teacher. And while Oakland police officers are under strict regulations during pursuits, those rules don't apply to CHP. Kevin Coe explains how those policies could be shifting.
Felipe Kelly says he doesn't feel safe walking around Oakland.
Why should I feel safe walking down any one of these streets when I know CHP is very reckless in their approach and how they drive through residential neighborhoods, right? And how they come through our communities.
All right, CHP has a visual of him.
Kelly's reacting to this pursuit on May 28th that ended with the tragic death of 40-year-old Dr. Marvin Boomer, a beloved Castlemont High School teacher. New video released by CHP's aerial unit shows the moments leading up to that deadly collision. It started when a license plate reader alerted officers to a black Infiniti tied to a felony evading case out of Alameda County. 2 officers tried to stop the driver, 18-year-old Eric Scott Hernandez Garcia, who sped away. According to CHP, it pursued Hernandez Garcia until his vehicle reached dangerously high speeds of nearly 100 miles per hour.
Approaching Fruitvale, all lanes at 90.
Officers say they stopped the pursuit for 13 minutes until the 18-year-old pulled over.
Parked on the east side of the street.
But as soon as officers arrived to try and arrest him, Hernandez Garcia sped away again. In less than a minute, he crashes into a minivan near Park Boulevard and 21st Street. CHP officers on the ground started chasing him again, but say they quickly lost track of Hernandez Garcia and called off the pursuit, leaving the aerial unit as the only eyes on the driver. About 20 seconds later, the vehicle slammed into a tree, a parked car, and a fire hydrant. The hydrant hit Dr. Boomer, who had been walking with his partner on the sidewalk.
An educator, someone committed to our babies and our community, walking with his partner, something any of us should be able to do on any given day in the streets of Oakland.
Kat Brooks, the co-founder of the Anti-Police Terror Project, joined other community activists outside CHP's Oakland office, demanding CHP follow OPD's stricter pursuit policy when they're on city streets. That prevents officers from pursuits exceeding 50 miles an hour without supervisor approval.
I'm a rational human being. If someone has just committed a horrific act of violence, right, that's a conversation we should have. I do not think we should ever chase for nonviolent incidents, ever. Fall back, do the investigation, holler at them later.
But OPD's own policy could be loosened, as Chief Floyd Mitchell is asking the Police Commission to take out the approval requirement for high speeds.
Everything that we do from a policing standpoint poses a high risk to our community, and we have to balance that.
The police department had come under pressure, even from the governor, to relax its policy that some say is allowing too many criminals to get away. But Felipe believes the tragic outcome of this chase shows that the city should consider doing away with pursuits altogether.
Like, honestly, it feels like at any moment my life can be taken by one of these officers or one of these CHP officers because of their recklessness.
The Police Commission tells us later this month, commission leaders are scheduled to meet with OPD leadership along with federal monitor overseeing the department. They'll discuss Chief Mitchell's plan. That would give the chief time to make any further adjustments before the commission votes on it in mid-July. Meantime, OPD says starting tomorrow, it is stepping up its presence around the city for the summer. Oaklanders can expect additional foot patrols and increased enforcement efforts. OPD's summer safety plan includes staffing up for the Juneteenth holiday. Last year's celebrations led to an illegal sideshow, which ended in a mass shooting at Lake Merritt. At least one person was arrested. This year, officers plan to have an even stronger presence at Lake Merritt.
Due to the past gun violence that's occurred, we will have a significant increase in personnel around Lake Merritt, and we will be prepared to respond and take immediate action on anybody that commits any type of criminal activity.
OPD says it will also continue combining proactive policing, community partnerships, and effective incident responses to ensure community safety. All right, we want to get to some breaking news. A San Francisco judge has just ruled that President Trump's deployment of the National Guard in response to protests in Los Angeles is unlawful. Let's get right to Kenny Choi outside the federal courthouse with more on this latest ruling. Kenny.
Julia, yeah, that ruling coming in just a short time ago, right behind me in front of the state building here on McAllister. Governor Gavin Newsom is expected to speak to reporters momentarily. He said that he would speak to the press after a ruling was handed down. So we can expect that at any moment. Now, meantime, there were arguments made inside the federal courthouse in San Francisco this afternoon on essentially when can National Guard troops be deployed. In this case, National Guard troops from California into the city of Los Angeles. The president has so far ordered 4,000 National Guard members and 700 U.S. Marine troops to Los Angeles to restore order on the streets. Federal Judge Charles Breyer heard arguments from both sides for about an hour. Newsom and attorneys have characterized the federal military intervention as unnecessary and an abuse of power. Rory Little is a constitutional law professor at UC Law, San Francisco.
One strong argument is the orders did not go through the governor's office, and the statute requires that the orders go through the governor's office. At the very least, the president should have called up the governor's office and said, hey, I'm going to do this. And they didn't do that. They just simply announced they were going to do it.
Attorneys for Trump argued the president may call into federal service members and units of the National Guard of any state in such numbers as he considers necessary to repel an invasion, suppress the rebellion, or execute those laws.
Their strongest argument is if you look at the pictures of what happened, Saturday and Sunday, things seem to be out of control. And that's when we send in the National Guard.
At one point during the hearing in front of a packed courthouse, Breyer saying this country was founded in response to a monarch, and the Constitution is a document of limitations. I'm trying to figure out where the lines are drawn. So the Department of Justice officials representing the President of the United States, they made the argument that POTUS is not required to obtain a state consent and that courts should defer to the president's military judgments. But obviously that ruling refuting that, we are going to head inside that the state house, the state building here on McAllister to hear what Newsom and his reaction to this ruling is. Juliet?
Yeah, this information just coming down. We'll wait for that information from Governor Newsom. Kenny Choi, thank you so much. All right, another busy news day. It was at a Homeland Security press briefing that on the military presence in Los Angeles, that was what they were talking about, where California Senator Alex Padilla was shoved out of the room and pushed to the ground by federal officers this morning. It happened about 5 minutes into a speech by Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem.
That you're rotating on the ground.
Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go, I put them behind my back.
All right.
A Department of Homeland Security spokesperson says the Secret Service thought Padilla might be an attacker and that officers acted appropriately. Padilla spoke to reporters shortly after the incident, but he did not say why he did not wait until the question and answer portion of the briefing.
If this is how this administration responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said after the briefing that if Padilla had questions, he should have reached out to her office beforehand instead of coming in unannounced.
His approach, was something that I don't think was appropriate at all. People need to identify themselves before they start lunging at people that during press conferences.
Noem added that after the incident, she and Padilla traded numbers so that he can reach out to her directly with any future questions. So earlier, I spoke with political science professor Dr. Caroline Heldman, who says while it's hard to believe Noem wouldn't recognize one of the two senators from the most populous state in the country, she's even more shocked at what the secretary was saying before Padilla interrupted.
Secretary Noem comes to Los Angeles and says she wants to liberate Los Angeles and California from their leadership. That's another kind of troubling, authoritarian-like statement. I think we need to recognize that, we need to call it out, and we need to interrogate what that means.
Padilla's Democratic colleagues in Congress are demanding answers from the Trump administration over his treatment by the security detail, while House Speaker Mike Johnson and other Republicans are threatening to censure Padilla for his actions. All right, bringing you back here to the Bay Area, local leaders are throwing their support behind immigrant communities. San Francisco's mayor joining faith leaders on the steps of City Hall, criticizing the president's crackdown on immigration and reaffirming that the city stands with immigrants. Civil rights activist and president of San Francisco's NAACP branch, Dr. Amos Brown, gave a rousing speech.
It's time for us to roll up our sleeves and get to work. Thank God. San Francisco knows how to lead the way, how to do the right thing. Thank God. San Francisco knows that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Just this week, 4 people were detained by ICE at the immigration court on Montgomery Street. Protests forced the court to shut down for the day. Still here at 6, our first look inside the secret apartment at a Burlingame CalTrain station that landed one executive and a contractor in jail. Plus, neighbors say it's long past time for Burlingame's other CalTrain station to open Monday through Friday, the long-promised project that's kept it closed during the week for 2 decades. 2 former CalTrain employees accused of embezzlement have now been sentenced. So prosecutors say they used public funds to secretly build an apartment to live inside the Burlingame and Millbrae stations. Really? The county DA's office sent us these photos from inside the Burlingame station. So they say that 67-year-old Joseph Vincent Navarro spent $42,000 of taxpayer money to remodel the station. Those renovations include a kitchen, shower, heating, plumbing, and security cameras. Prosecutors say invoices were kept below $3,000 to avoid detection. Navarro was charged with felony theft and embezzlement and sentenced to 4 months in county jail and 2 years with probation. Meanwhile, back in January, 63-year-old Seth Warden was sentenced to 2 months of county jail and 1 year of probation. He's accused of using public funds to renovate the Millbrae CalTrain station into his own personal living space. All right, meantime, there's a different issue facing Burlingame's other CalTrain station. Residents are calling on the city to reopen services at its Broadway station during weekdays. It closed down from Monday through Friday 2 decades ago, but since then, the area has seen lots of residential and commercial growth. Our Max Darrow has more.
Take a walk down Broadway in Burlingame with real estate broker Ross Bruce.
I was a busboy there in 1961.
And it's clear he knows the lay of the land better than most.
A lot of our businesses have been here for a lot of years.
And for the past 20 years, He says new residents, tenants, and business owners all find themselves surprised when they find out
The train station is not open during the weekdays.
Bruce says it's time for CalTrain to reverse that decision.
We had about 2,000 people a week in terms of ridership, with 800 to 1,000 new units of rentals within walking distance from here. That figure would probably go up dramatically.
There's a petition circulating Burlingame right now that's gaining speed, urging the city and CalTrain to bring back weekday service to an area seeing both commercial and residential development.
Broadway would be right over here.
Advocates say reintroducing this vital transportation hub during the week will benefit the local economy and environment.
And there have been a lot of promises over the years that if just one more thing was fixed, they would give us our service back. So we're encouraging them to follow through with that.
CalTrain closed the station to weekday service back in 2005 when the railway launched its express service. The reason? A safety requirement known as the holdout rule, which, due to the layout of this station, leads to traffic and safety challenges, says CalTrain spokesperson Dan Lieberman.
So the decision at the time was to close the Broadway station, for weekday traffic and for weekday train travel, and hold off until a grade separation could be completed, so we could more effectively move through the station. The holdout rule would be eliminated, and those traffic impacts and safety concerns would be resolved.
But 20 years later, that project has yet to break ground.
There was a pretty significant jump in the funding estimate for the project last fall.
Burlingame Mayor Peter Stevenson says the grade separation project remains the top priority, which likely needs to come before weekday service can resume.
We've been working with different agencies, CalTrain, the Transit Authority at the county level, obviously state level folks, on reassembling our plan for securing the funding to make that project a reality.
Is there a world where service will resume before that grade separation project is complete?
It is, it's hard to see that.
In Bruce's world, he'd like to see service resume
next Tuesday at 2.
Since timetables continue to shift, he believes the order of operations needs to change.
The grade separation, which has been put on infinity hold, and then we've got 20 years worth of promises from CalTrain offering to restore our service. So now there's no real reason not to restore the service.
So he and other advocates plan to continue speaking up to ensure that a change that was meant to be a temporary plan doesn't get derailed into becoming the permanent one.
Construction for the project is slated to start anytime between 2025 and 2028 if they have the funds. They need the money.
Always a big
M-O-N-E-Y.
Yes. Let's take a look at how close we were to, well, normal June temperatures. Most of us returned to that territory today. The exception, San Jose, only up to 70 degrees, almost 10 degrees below normal. While Santa Rosa and Concord within a couple degrees of average. We are in for a warm up by next week. We'll take a look ahead at the 7-day forecast coming up in First Alert Weather.
All right, just ask Paul, is it going to get warm? Is it going to get cold? And he just said yes. So you take it away.
It's June in the Bay Area. Yeah, it's going to be warm
Yes.
some places. It'll be cold others.
That's
It'll be
true. That's
sunny
true.
some spots, foggy others.
All right, then you were correct.
Windy pretty much everywhere. This is one of those things
Silly
where you can
question
just
I asked you.
say pretty much anything and we'll be accurate somewhere in the Bay Area.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Let's take a look at what we are in for as we head through the next few days. A look at the weather headlines as we look out from the top of Black Mountain towards the Santa Clara Valley. A little haze in the distance. Air quality, though, is fine, the good and moderate category. More just typical June weather in store for us. Morning fog, afternoon sunshine for most of us, even a little bit at the coast. Then more of the same over the weekend. The thing that we're watching by next week is a brief warming trend that's going to kick in by Tuesday and Wednesday. No extreme heat in sight, but a noticeable warm up for parts of the Bay Area in store for us by the time we hit the middle of next week. Now, it's not going to last very long. If we look at the 6 to 10 day outlook from the Climate Prediction Center for temperatures, well, it does show that trend towards warmer conditions. And this warm up is for days 5 and 6 in the 7-day forecast. So that tracks the cooler weather off to our north and Pacific Northwest. But watch what happens as we look at the 8 to 14 day outlook. We're right back to in-between territory. The warm weather is off to our west and southwest. The cool weather knocking at our doorstep, trying to creep in. So even a small deviation from normal temperatures on the positive side, that little warm up next week, just isn't going to last very long. Temperatures have been very mild, even on the cool side, for the first half of the month of June, and that's likely to continue into the second half of the month as well. Let's take a look at where we stand right now. We'll look out from the top of the Mark Hopkins Hotel, and, well, you can see some of that fog at the coast, but otherwise blue skies overhead. It just didn't help temperatures out in the city. Mid-50s in San Francisco right now, 60 across the bay in Oakland, only upper 60s in San Jose, and 70s inland. We did have a few 80s on the map this afternoon, and we'll have a few more of those as we head through the day tomorrow. But temperatures in the Tri-Valley, where we find our adoptable dog of the day, are going to be pretty temperate, only reaching up into the low 70s. This is a very happy adoptable face from the East County Animal Shelter. May looks like she is ready for whatever kind of outdoor time she can get. I'll put up details about how you can look into adopting her right after this weathercast. And again, the weather looks ideal for dog walking purposes for the next several days with no extreme heat in sight. In terms of the fog, let's track that. We'll return to the local map here and look at that through the rest of tonight and into early tomorrow morning. And the fog is going to try to spread out as we head through the overnight hours. So a little flash there before it reestablishes itself along the coast and tries to spread into the inland valleys, but not too far into those inland valleys by early tomorrow morning. And it should dissipate quickly, already backing up to the coast by mid to late morning. So that's going to allow temperatures to warm up to near what's normal for this time of year. Pretty much everybody's temperatures are going to be within 3 degrees on either side of average, just a little below normal in San Jose, but 77 would be a full 7 degrees warmer than you were today. Temperatures east of the Oakland Hills, mostly into the 80s, but again, that temperature in Dublin for our dog walking forecast was only up into the middle portion of the 70s. 60s and 70s around the bay. A lot of 70s for the North Bay, but up to above 80 degrees in Santa Rosa, 85 degrees for high temperature in Healdsburg tomorrow afternoon. Let's check out the 7-day forecast, and we'll start inland, where you're going to notice the warm-up right at the tail end of the 7-day forecast. Tuesday and Wednesday, those temperatures warming up to around 90 degrees. That, again, is not going to last very long. And temperatures around the bay and along the coast, it's going to be much more subtle in terms of the warming trend. We'll show you the updated 7-day forecast for the bay and coast coming up at 7 o'clock.
Weathercast was the best part of the day. Thank you very much. You're not going to hear that very often.
Not a whole lot of competition.
Just saying.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be right back. We want to recap our breaking news. A U.S. District Court judge in San Francisco has just ruled that President Trump's deployment of the National Guard to Los Angeles was unlawful. Judge Charles Breyer ruling that the president did not follow congressionally mandated procedures in calling the troops in to respond to ICE protests over the weekend. The judge has issued a temporary restraining order directing the administration to return the National Guard to Governor Newsom. It takes effect tomorrow at noon. The Justice Department has already filed a notice of appeal, and we're waiting for reaction from Governor Newsom. Much more on this coming up tonight at 7 o'clock. Thanks for joining us. The CBS Evening News with Maurice Dubois and John Dickerson is next on KPIX. Local news always streaming. And again, we'll see you at 7 o'clock with more local news right here.